Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar today. I'm really excited to welcome you all here, and we're really excited to have all of you. My name is Brendan O'Keefe, and I'll be the host for today's webinar. I'm joined on the line by Michelle Rogers, aka the Wealthy Woman, and she's going to be leading the presentation of this webinar titled How to Get Reliable Results Using Functional Labs. And I'm going to pass it off to her in a moment so she can introduce herself. But first, let's just go over some quick housekeeping items. So first off, this webinar today is sponsored by Rupa Health. Rupa Health is the simplest and easiest way for practitioners to order specialty labs from 20 plus specialty lab companies all in one place. And it takes what can be a 20-minute process and makes it a 2-minute process. Plus, Rupa reduces administrative hassles by managing patient experience for you so you can focus on patient care and focus less on administrative issues. So for more information, please visit rupahealth.com. A couple of housekeeping items. I've muted everyone by default, and if everyone could stay mute, it would be great so we don't disrupt the presentation. In addition, if you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please feel free to submit them into the chat panel. All the questions come to me, the host, and at the end, we'll leave about 15 minutes for live Q&A with Michelle. Speaking of Michelle, now is the time. I'm ready to pass it up to you. Get started.
Yay! Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm super excited that you're here. It's always amazing to have people show up live. It's just a very unique experience. So thank you for taking the time. I just want to acknowledge you there. So today I'll give you a little bit of my background in just a minute, but I really want to bring you into this world of mine of using functional labs. It's something I've been doing for over a decade now, and really creating and formulating strategies around how to get reliable results with functional labs. I think more and more people, more and more practitioners in general are really discovering the value and the application of functional labs in their practice. So super excited that you're here and you're curious. It has been completely transformative for my own practice. So welcome. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So I love to start with just getting curious around why you are here and what is really resonating with you right now. So one, possibly you're just really intrigued about functional labs and functional lab analysis and how you could possibly implement that in your practice. You might be curious, possibly overwhelmed. I know I was in the beginning about functional labs and how to actually make it work, how to actually bring them into your practice. Perhaps you're getting inconsistent results right now in your practice with your clients, with your patients. You're also going to notice I probably go back and forth between using clients and patients. I currently use the term clients, but you might have patients. So just keep that in mind, and they're kind of interchangeable in this scenario. So your clients are getting decent results, but you know that there's a piece that's missing, and you know that you could really unlock a lot of additional healing potential if you had additional information and a more holistic or broad perspective of what's going on. You might also be experiencing something called imposter syndrome. You may or may not be familiar with this term, but as we kind of exit our comfort zone and start to learn new things and implement new things, we can have these inner voices that kind of tell us that we don't know enough, or that we're not, I don't know, we don't have enough letters after our names, or we don't have enough experience to actually help someone. And so I just want to let you know I've been there too. And this kind of looks like you want to dive into the labs, but you're not really sure of your ability to apply it in practice in a really effective way. So if that resonates with any of you, I'd love for you to just put a yes in the chat box, or if I'm on track here, I would love that. And any feedback from the co-hosts would be awesome as far as that goes, because I can't see the chat box right now.
Yeah, we've got some clapping going on for sure.
Okay, cool. Okay, awesome. Cool. I love the interaction. Okay. So what you're going to leave with today, one direction, you're going to have a better idea of which labs resonate with your own practice, your program, your service bundle, however you want to term that, and how to start integrating that into your practice. You're going to have a better understanding of how all of the different pieces kind of fit together to start offering more comprehensive care. And then you're going to leave with more confidence for sure, right? You're going to know the next step needed to really boost your confidence, skill set, ability to effectively create personalized protocols, etc. So what to expect from today. We're going to go over some really common client objections around ordering labs. I know that I have dealt with this a lot in the past, and so I have some kind of common ways that you can help your clients really get it. And I hate to use the term kind of like buy into it, but that is in a sense, right? We need to really properly educate them so that they can understand why you're actually ordering these labs, and like why you're actually needing them to make the recommendations that you need to make to really provide a more comprehensive care. I'm also going to chat about why most practices fail, especially virtual practices. I know a lot of you may be pivoting into the virtual space or the online space, especially after last year. So I'm going to touch on that, how to incorporate functional labs into your practice, even if you are virtual. I know a lot of practitioners have questions about that. I'm going to talk about the core functional labs that I use and I've been using for years now. So things like the GI map, the MRT, the organics, the Dutch Plus. I do some functional genomics, comprehensive blood chemistry analysis. So we're going to be diving into those a little bit today too. I'm going to be sharing a strategy that I've sort of developed over the past decade or so with you, something that I think most practitioners are missing. And I feel like, you know, if our goal is really to help people, right, to really help people heal and like get on the right path and really kind of like empower them to be better human beings, like that creates this beautiful ripple effect, which we'll touch on in just a moment as well. And then I'm going to do kind of like a mini case study depending on time and what we have available to us. I'll at least show you how I cross-reference those labs and in what it looks like in practice. And then there'll be some opportunity to take aligned action, and then of course the Q&A at the end. So a little bit about me. I have this innate, strong, this belief that we have the capacity to change the world, and specifically the health and wellness paradigm. So I just love, you know, interacting with colleagues who are on the same page. You know, I think there's unfortunately a lot of competition in our industry, and not a lot of sharing, not a lot of communication. And I think that there's a lot of practitioners out there who really hold their protocols really tight to the chest and won't like let you access them. And I really want to shift that mentality because, you know, the saying is that a rising tide lifts all ships. And I think that we're in a time and a space and an era or whatever, where we all need to kind of team together, regardless of what type of practitioner we are, whether we're an ND, MD, PA, nurse practitioner, like dietitian, nutritionist, like working together is really the core of how I believe we're going to shift this paradigm. So my philosophy is really that if we give our body the right information, the right instructions, the right environment, it's going to do what it does best, and that's heal. So hopefully we're all on the same page there. And just a little bit more background. I have a background in naturopathic medicine, acupuncture, oriental medicine, functional diagnostic nutrition. I've been in practice for about 10 years. I took my practice 100% virtual in 2018, but I have experience being a primary care provider in the insurance paradigm, did that for 4 years, had a practice full of 200 patients. I was, you know, successful, making 6 figures, all of that, had a full practice waiting list, all of that. And I was exhausted and depleted and just completely disheartened with what I was doing. And I knew that something had to shift because I couldn't imagine doing what I was doing for another year, let alone another like 10 or 15 or 20 years. And so that kind of initiated this progression into creating a virtual practice, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm actually in Puerto Vallarta right now. I got here yesterday. I actually live in Mexico, in Tulum, Mexico, which I moved here about 3 months ago now. But yeah, if you have more questions about that, you can always reach out to me. I love one of my core values is freedom. So that is what I have to say about that. So the ripple effect, I mentioned this earlier. I just really, truly believe that we have the capacity to change the world. And, you know, I have the you here, and that you can be you, the practitioner, and that you can also be your client, right? And so it really starts with us in essence. And by shifting and changing and improving and enhancing and expanding our own development, our own health and healing, our own ability to give, right? Our capacity to give and to be of service, we're able to affect not just our immediate circle, but how like their circle, right? Like it creates this really beautiful, beautiful ripple effect that goes way beyond anything that we could ever imagine. You know, we can make a very simple recommendation to a client or patient of ours, and it could be life-changing. I don't know about you, but there's so much information over the years that I've implemented, like so many, you know, routines or habits or things that I do during the day that I take for granted. And I share just one little health tidbit to someone, and it's just like mind blowing. And it literally changes the trajectory of their life. And we get to share these things all the time. So just keeping that in mind, how much impact we really can have when our cup is full, when we're giving from sustenance, and I'm sorry, when we're giving from overflow instead of giving from sustenance, which so many of us do, right? We have this idea, this thread of consciousness that to be of service, we have to be in servitude. And it's just not the case. So one of my favorite quotes, if we all did the things we were capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves. And I think that is so true of us as practitioners, and so true of our clients and patients, especially when we empower them with their health, right? So, how to help your clients get it? So, the first issue that I run across a lot is just a lack of education, a lack of client or patient education. And I think a lot of us practitioners, we kind of assume sometimes that our client or patient knows more than they actually do. And so we need to be that bridge. We need to bridge that gap of information, knowledge, understanding, so that they can actually apply what we're wanting to apply, what we're wanting them to apply, right? Increasing client or patient compliance. Kind of hate that word, but that's, you guys know what I'm talking about when I say that. But as practitioners, yeah, we tend to assume that our clients, patients already trust our strategy. And then we get frustrated when they don't follow through, right? We're like, oh, like, why aren't they doing what I'm telling them to do? Like, it's so simple, or it's so, you know, it's so clear, whatever, X, Y, Z, right? And so we really need to educate them around the importance of labs. And also why functional labs specifically don't tend to work in the conventional paradigm, right? I know as a naturopath, I can't speak for all professions, but we've tried so hard to fit into this allopathic paradigm, and then we get frustrated and angry about that because we don't quite fit. It's like trying to fit a square into a circle. Like we weren't meant to be there, in my opinion. So some of the things that come up, some of the questions that come up from clients, or what I've experienced over the past several years is, you know, can we just run one lab? Can we just run, you know, just the GI map, or like just the Dutch, you know? And the fact is, typically they just don't see the value of a more comprehensive approach, and also cross-referencing labs. And you'll hear me say that a lot during this presentation, and I'll kind of demonstrate what I mean to you when we get there. Why are the labs so expensive, right? Like our clients and patients, they're just so used to the conventional paradigm. They don't get it. They don't understand that with insurance and subsidized medicine, like it's just a different approach, right? We're wanting to prevent, we're wanting to put together trends and patterns and really see clusters of information that can tell us what's going on before pathology arrives, right? Before we're like really far down that path of dis-ease, right? Another question is, you know, can my insurance cover it? And a lot of times they just don't understand that insurance doesn't recognize holistic and preventive care. You know, there's always a medical necessity and all of that kind of stuff, that it just creates so much headache. Yeah, that's what I'll say about that. They also ask, you know, can we use my test from last year? I get a lot of people saying that, like, oh, well, I did like the Dutch last year. I did a food sensitivity test 2 years ago, or something like that. And it's because they don't understand how much the body can shift and change over time, or again, that value of cross-referencing. So as you practitioners probably know, a food sensitivity test from a year ago, 2 years ago, even a few months ago, is just not really going to help us in creating the most strategic protocol, because things can shift and change depending on environmental exposures, inflammatory levels, all kinds of things like that, right? Okay. So my analogy, something I always explain to my clients and something I share inside of my mentorship, is the analogy of thinking of the body as a painting, right? Like if we only look at one or two biomarkers or even one or two labs, it's like trying to appreciate a painting through a pinhole. So it's really difficult for us to see from more of a macroscopic view of what's going on. And that's something else about my philosophy too. I'm not very reductionistic. I'm not the type of practitioner who's going to like run down the rabbit hole of the very specific microflora and what it does and treat that one thing. Like I feel like that limits us too much and that's too reductionistic in my personal opinion. But yeah, when we're only looking at really specific biomarkers, or we're not looking at the whole picture, we're not cross-referencing, we can't see that full picture. So our mind ends up filling in the gaps and making assumptions based on information that's not present. And then we create these protocols that are ineffective. And then our clients get frustrated, we get frustrated, we don't get referrals, our practice ends up struggling. So maybe some of you could relate. All right, I'm gonna take a sip of water here. So issue number 2 that I run into a lot is client self-sabotage. So one book I really like, it's very much so like a mindset book. If you guys are interested, highly recommend it. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. But he describes this self-sabotage in general for people across the board. He describes it as an upper limit problem. It's like our inner thermostat that determines how much success or health or fill in the blank, whatever you're working towards, we allow ourselves to enjoy in various areas of our life. And so a lot of times what happens is that our clients self-sabotage and are basically this. Also another book, I have so many book recommendations. James Clear, Atomic Habits, so good, so good, especially if you have any issues or concerns around your clients or patients who are having issues with compliance and following through and shifting habits. But anyway, your current habits are perfectly designed to deliver your current results, right? And so this is such a powerful quote because all of your clients' habits that they're currently doing that's what's brought them to where they are. And so we need to help people break out of that and really break out of their comfort zone. That's the second time we've talked about comfort zone in this talk already, right? We need to create that shift and that change. And so a lot of times you'll see your clients having issues with different substances, food, distraction, things like that. These are all sort of self-sabotaging behaviors, which can either derail, demotivate, basically prevent our clients from reaching the goals and success that they want to create, the results, really. And so what I've found is that having the data from the functional labs is incredibly powerful. Like they see the data and they're like, oh my gosh, it's not in my head. Okay, now I get it. Now it makes sense. And that's like the fire that they needed, the motivation that they need now to actually create that habit change. I don't know if you've experienced that yourself, but it's really, really powerful. I find that the going over the labs, really putting the picture together just creates this beautiful understanding between my clients and patients, myself, practitioner. So it's really, really, really awesome. It gives them that validation that they've been seeking, because I know you guys have dealt with so many clients and patients who've seen other practitioners and they're like, they're not being seen, they're not being heard, they're not being understood, right? They're being dismissed. And so this is just a way to really kind of hone in and be like, hey guys, like I see you, like this makes sense, this all makes sense, it makes sense why you feel like this, and this is what we need to do to get you out of this situation. Okay. So why most practices fail and how to create a thriving, sustainable practice. So why most online practices fail. I put online practices, but this could be brick and mortar practice too, wherever you're at. But I see a lot of practitioners who underestimate the initial effort it takes to make sure that their clients are feeling happy, safe, and successful. I also want to say that if you lack the skills to make your clients feel understood and important, they start to complain, they stop showing up or doing the work, they ask for refunds, or worst of all, they share their negative experience with others. So to create a sustainable practice, you really need to get reliable results. And as a holistic, I'm going to say just a holistic practitioner, you know the importance of really seeing, hearing, and understanding your client. And we need to make that a really big focus in our practices. So the approach I see is, I say the wrong approach, but of course, my opinion, but most practitioners are blindly guessing how to approach their client cases based on symptoms and possibly a few labs. This is like trying to appreciate a painting through a pinhole, like I said. So without knowing what's going on at the cellular level, we're offering nothing more than someone can get with a health coach or a simple Dr. Google search, right? So your clients and patients deserve so much more than that. So what I'd like to see are empowered practitioners who empower their clients or patients. So practitioners creating comprehensive strategies with customized protocols that create consistent results. Clients getting the support, the care, the follow through they deserve from practitioners who see, hear, and understand them. Practitioners who are taken care of physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, so they can show up even better for their clients and the people that they love. So something to keep in mind is that your reputation is your most important asset, right? So another reason why it's so important to get those reliable results. Okay, so let's get into the juicy stuff. So how to incorporate functional labs for a more customized and effective approach with your clients and patients. So again, comprehensive labs, functional labs really provide validation. Your client feels more seen, heard, and understood. You have more confidence, and so does your client. So you feel more confident moving forward, creating the protocol. Your client feels more confident actually following that protocol because they have a much better understanding of why they're feeling the way that they're feeling. So they're more apt to really receive the recommendations that you're making. And then you have the strategy that you need. So you have the data, not just the objective data from the labs, but also the subjective data from symptomology. I'm going to show you a glimpse of how I collect more subjective data from my clients over the months that I work with them, which really helps to shape our strategy as well. So that is that. And then, of course, you all know as practitioners, the importance of bioindividuality. So I think a lot of times, as you probably know too, there's a lot of really generic protocols online that a lot of people end up following, taking, doing, implementing, whatever, and then they start feeling like total garbage, right? So it's just really important to remember that we're all biologically and genetically unique, and that we're all impacted by various life experiences and exposures. Our overall health is determined by these unique factors, plus the health of our biological terrain. The concept of epigenetics allows us to take control of our health outcomes. This is always a conversation that I have with my clients as well. So let's jump into the lab. So these are the labs that I've used really consistently for many, many years now. And I find that at least for the type of client and patient that I interact with on a regular basis, these ones tend to be really comprehensive. Like they create a really beautiful foundation for me to create a strategy and at least get our first like 6 months, make a huge dent in their progress and their transformative progress in their health. So adrenal and hormone health. So obviously measuring stress resilience to prevent burnout, restore hormonal balance. Digestive analysis, assessing the health of the digestive tract, the microbiome, identifying any pathogenic or opportunistic imbalances that may be present, food sensitivities, identifying which foods are currently triggering an inflammatory response that might be interfering with healing. So the tests that I use for these three are the Dutch Plus, which is a urine and saliva test. This test is really, really, really helpful. When I first started using Dutch, I think back in 2012, I was just using the Dutch Complete, and then they came out with the Dutch Plus that has the CAR, or the cortisol awakening response, which I found to be a really helpful addition. I don't use Dutch's precision analyticals, what is it, the neurotransmitter portion of what they do, or the organic acids. I don't use that. I really prefer to use something else, which we'll get to in just a moment. But I do really pay attention to their hormone panel and the cortisol, the adrenal assessment as well. The digestive analysis that I use is the GI map. I've used a bunch of different ones, but the GI map is for sure my favorite. I find that it's the most clinically applicable, and I can create a really beautiful 5-hour or 6-hour protocol based on that, combined with some of these other tests. Food sensitivities, I've gone through a bunch of food sensitivity tests over the years. If you've been in practice for a while, I'm sure you have a similar story. The MRT, I've landed on this one now. I've settled with this one for, I want to say, maybe 2.5 years now. And it's been my favorite one so far. I don't follow their LEAP protocol as far as their, I think it's like how they reintroduce the foods. I kind of do old school naturopathic approach with the food reintroduction phase, but I find that it's super, super helpful in the sense that it's like an endpoint test. So any sort of inflammatory endpoint products, it's going to pick up on. So I find that it's it just seems to work better clinically for me in my practice. I also run organic acids. So organic acids are one of the newer tests that I've integrated probably over the past, I would say, like maybe 5 years. But basically identifying any specific nutrient deficiencies, metabolic function, neurotransmitter balance, toxicant exposures, and mitochondrial function, blood chemistry. So doing a really comprehensive blood chemistry analysis to identify any inflammatory factors, blood sugar imbalances, nutrient imbalances, thyroid and immune function. Really, really helpful. I love cross-referencing with the blood chemistry. And then genomics. So genomics is the newest one that I've started integrating probably in the past 3 years, I think. But really addressing genetic patterns and long-term health through targeted nutrient therapy and lifestyle enhancement. So I specifically don't do just like SNP testing, like the single nucleotide polymorphism. I never got into that, but the functional genomics really made sense to me because we're looking at clusters of genes and patterns and really being able to put together a story in a way that just makes more sense for my brain. I know there's different types of practitioners and different sort of like unique special sauces that we all have. And so that's just kind of the direction that I went when it comes to genomics. And the tests that I use for these, so the organic acids, I use the Organics Comprehensive from Genova. That's a urine test. The blood chemistry, I use a really detailed panel that I've put together over the past 10, 11 years. And I'm more than happy to share the list with you if you
So it looks like we may be experiencing some technical difficulties. Let's see if we can get Michelle back on the line.
Hey, was that my internet or yours? Sorry.
You're back. We're so happy to have you back.
So sorry. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it's Mexico internet, you know, here and there. But so apologies, everyone. Are we good?
Yeah, let's continue forward.
All right, cool. Hopefully I know where exactly we left off. Hang on one moment. Did you guys get to did you hear the lab or the one where I was asking if you guys had run the labs yourselves?
I don't think so.
Okay. let me see here.
Michelle, you cut out right when you were going through the second lab.
Oh, the second lab. Okay. You mean back here?
Right when you're going through like the, I think maybe one back.
One back. Right here?
You discussed
No,
that
yeah, we went past that.
Functional genomics is where you stop. You talking about functional genomics.
Cool. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for your patience, guys. All right. So functional genomics, what I was saying about that is that I really love using functional genomics instead of using basic like SNP or single nucleotide polymorphism testing, just because I never went down that rabbit hole. Again, for me, that's too reductionistic. So kind of being like, oh, you have the MTHFR variant, let's treat this, and like really doing that. I just don't do that in my practice. I'm not saying that it's wrong in any way, shape, or form. It's just not how I operate and how my mind works. So I love doing functional genomics because it's more pattern oriented. And so it's like clusters and patterns of genes that I can create a story and kind of create a better understanding of what's going on and how to apply different lifestyle modifications or enhancements, and also any targeted nutrient therapy that would be beneficial for that person. So the functional labs that I use for those, the organic acids, I use the Organics Comprehensive from Genova, which is a urine test. I use a blood chemistry panel, functional blood chemistry analysis, and I have a really, really detailed panel. If you guys want that, I'll let you know how you can get that list from me a little bit later in the presentation. That's a blood and a urine test. And then the genomics, I use the DNA company for functional genomics, which is a saliva test. All right, so I'm curious if any of you practitioners have run any or all of these labs on yourself. I know that as a practitioner, we can really easily put our own health on the back burner or try to be our own doctor a lot of times. And I'm just so curious to know if you guys have run any of these on yourself. I can't see the chat box, so if anyone wants to let me know what's going on, I would love to hear.
Yeah, so please submit any of the, like, if you've run these yourselves, I'm curious which tests you've run, and if you've encountered any like insights, that would be super helpful. Let's do like maybe like 15-second pause and see what comes in.
Yeah. And I just really think it's so important, especially for those of you who are really new to functional lab analysis. I highly encourage you to run these on yourself because it's such an amazing learning experience to go through the lab, start familiarizing yourself with it. Because what I have found with practitioners that I've worked with, it's like we almost get paralyzed because we're like, oh, this is like such a steep learning curve. This is like really hard to like take that next step and like apply or implement a new test. And it's just like, you just have to dive in. You just have to take that step and really take that aligned action to start learning it. Because as you know, it's like the only way that we can learn anything is just by doing it. And even when you start running it on your clients and your patients, it's having that really open, transparent communication. Like, I just learned about this amazing test. Here are the benefits. Here's how it's going to actually enhance our work together and how it's going to affect my recommendations for you and things like that. Just having that really beautiful open dialogue can be just really transformative. It can give you that boost of confidence and that comfort and support that you need to just like take that leap with those new tests.
So quickly, Michelle, like we have some people that haven't done the process themselves, that they're new to functional medicine. So we've got some people there. We have some people who agree with you that say that that's the great way to experience it yourself, so you can relay those insights to the patient. And then we have some people who've taken, let's see, we've got GI map testing, MRT, food sensitivity, genomics we have. Yeah, a bunch of others. But yeah, lots of diversity.
So cool. I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's so helpful to do it on yourself. I highly recommend it. Even if you're curious about any of these labs, you're not sure if you're gonna end up running them in your practice, like just do it on yourself. I'm a firm believer in, I don't like to make any recommendations to my clients of things that I haven't done myself. And especially when it comes to collection instructions, I mean, any of you who have done the Dutch test, it's pretty complex. Like, so, you know, you have to go through it yourself so you can actually give your pointers, your own pointers to your clients and patients. When you're working with really aligned clients, they tend to be really similar to you, like energetically. And so, you know, for me, I was like, oh, it's really helpful to actually set alarms and like do it this way and set a timer here and like da 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 da. And that was just little nuances that I discovered going through the test myself. So just a little tip there. All right, so sorry, the picture's so crappy. I didn't catch that, but anywho, the strategy. So we don't have time to guess. Your clients and patients don't have time to guess, right? Like people want to start feeling better ASAP, right? We need to get those reliable results. And if we can get them in a reasonable amount of time, even better. So the labs, I like to see the labs as what gives me the roadmap. It's like, it's telling me what's going on. I can see the landscape. And then I'm like, okay, like this all makes sense, cross-referencing this story like makes sense with that and da, 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 da. And then I'm like, cool, this is the strategy that we need to put in place from like a macroscopic view. And so as some of you may know, maybe not others, my opinion is that in my experience, clinical experience, is you can't heal the gut if the adrenals are burnt out, and you can't detox if your gut lining is leaky and inflamed, right? And so the overall strategy that I end up implementing based on the labs that I get back is like, one, how are the adrenals doing? If they're tanked, if they're on the verge of burnout, you know, we're gonna start there. We're going to start working on the adrenals. Once we start seeing some improvement, gaining some momentum in that area, then we go into gut healing. Which, yes, some people do like a really simplistic sort of 5R protocol. Some people do a little bit more complex. I tend to have 3 different phases to my 5R protocol based on what comes back. And then, of course, you don't want to detox someone, especially targeted detox if they've got intestinal permeability or leaky gut, right? Because you're just going to end up dumping out toxins. And then those toxins are just going to recirculate all over the body. And the person's going to feel like total crap. You know, I don't know how many like people that you know who've done these like juice fasts and other crazy trends that are out there. And it's like, yeah, I kind of felt like total garbage after that. And it's like, yeah, well, you released a bunch of toxins and they just like recirculated through your body instead of, you know, dealing with the gut first. So my opinion on that. And then I usually go into more like long-term maintenance, refinements, things that I find out from the functional genomics, all of that good stuff. So that basic strategy has been transformative for my work. So basically, I run all of the labs at the same time. This is a question I get a lot. I run them all at the same time. Running a virtual practice, I actually, my client enrolls in my program. I send them a welcome kit that has all of the lab tests. So what I usually do is have the kits shipped to me or shipped to my assistant now that I live in Mexico, but have all the kits shipped, and then I ship them this welcome kit that has all of the kits ready for them. And I typically already have the requisitions kind of partially indicated, like where they need to fill out their information, all of that. I also personally create lab collection instruction videos, just little short 3 to 5 minute instructional videos, just kind of walking them through the kit. The more informed and comfortable the client is in actually like running the test at home, because there's a lot of people who have like a lot of anxiety and fear and yeah, I guess anxiety and fear around running these tests, right? It's like a totally different thing. They didn't nerd out like us and like go to med school and all of these things. They're kind of like, I don't know what the F this is, like, this is weird. And so the more you can like just inform them and have them get comfortable, the higher the odds are you're going to get like an actual accurate test, and it like is done right and not sent back and like all of that kind of stuff. So just again, open communication, always a really good idea. All right, so I run all of the tests at once to get a really clear picture of what's going on. I consider the subjective and the objective data because that really is what helps formulate a plan that works for that person in that specific period of their life, right? Everybody's at a different stage of their healing journey. And you know, it's always important to just remind people that like health is not a destination, right? Like health is this constantly evolving and shifting journey that we get to be on. And so, you know, we might be hopping in someone's journey in different places. So, and just a reminder too, that it's not just about the labs. You know, some people, I always talk about labs, and I always have to remind people, like, it's not just the labs. Like this person, this being in front of you is not just this data on the paper, right? We need to make sure that we're actually connecting with the essence of who they are. That comes back to the seeing, hearing, and understanding them. Okay. So next. All right. So cross-referencing. This is like my favorite part. This is where my like left brain nerdiness comes in, and I get all excited about really completing the picture. So cross-referencing is amazing because it really does help you complete the picture. So for example, you know, the thyroid might be off. This could look like a bunch of different things to a bunch of different practitioners, right? But if the thyroid's off, many practitioners are going to focus on the thyroid, or at least that's been my experience, instead of actually looking at the adrenals or micronutrient absorption, right? We need to make sure that the thyroid actually has the nutrients that it needs to produce thyroid hormone, or we're going to have a thyroid dysfunction, right? So it's always important to have all these pieces in place. So, and also I want to say too, you know, a lot of times we get these clients or patients who come in and they're convinced, they're like, it's my hormones, my hormones are off. And every now and then, sure, it's a primary issue, right? Like a primary hormone issue. But most of the time, it's actually hormonal imbalances are a downstream issue. We need to look at the gut. We need to look at the adrenals. We need to look at toxicity. We need to look at stealth infections, right? All of that kind of stuff. Anywho, the labs, the cross-referencing helps you plan your strategy. So as I had mentioned, there's really an order of operations that I have found that works really, really well. And that's the adrenals, the gut, detox, and then long-term support. And then of course, making refinements along the way. So monitoring that subjective feedback, which again, I'll show you how I do that, or a little snippet of how I do that, using questionnaires along with the test results. That really gives us the ability to make refinements and adjustments along the way, because life happens, right? Like nothing is set in stone, especially when working with clients and patients. So examples of cross-referencing. Now with hormones. So of course, like the upstream issues I just mentioned, but also, you know, on the GI map, you might see that the beta-glucuronidase is super elevated. So immediately I'm thinking like, I wonder what their estrogen metabolism looks like. You know, so I would probably look at organic acids. Of course, I'd be looking at the Dutch. And then of course, I'd be looking at the functional genomics as well. The functional genomics test that I use kind of breaks down like what are their pathways looking like as far as like metabolizing androgens, how are they metabolizing the different estrogens, all of that. So really helpful to kind of see where they're currently at, say with something like the Dutch, like what's the current in the moment presentation of that metabolism, and then looking at the genomics being like, what's the potential, or where do they need some support more long-term? All right, and then secretory IgA. So that's found on the GI map, or that's the test that I use. So secretory IgA, if that's elevated or if it's low, I want to look at intestinal flora. I want to look at the white blood cell count with differential on the functional blood chemistry analysis. I want to be looking at organic acids too. So really looking and seeing like how immune function is, looking at what the gut's doing, and seeing if there's any other things going on there. So nutrient deficiencies. We can see this on a bunch of different labs, the functional blood chemistry analysis for sure, organic acids for sure. We want to look at gut inflammation. Are they actually absorbing, assimilating their nutrients appropriately? What's their organ function looking like? So like I mentioned before, the thyroid, you know, if we're kind of seeing like across the board this nutrient deficiency, is it actually affecting production of thyroid hormone or whatever else might be going on? So, and we never want to forget health foundations, right? So I think sometimes we get so excited and we just want to like do all of the things and like, you know, give all the supplements and all this stuff. But I am such a firm believer that there's so much that we can do with lifestyle, with nutrition, and really using supplements and nutrients as targeted therapies. Like, yes, there are some that we need to potentially use long-term based on genomics and things of that nature, but there's so much that we can do with basic health foundations. And I always tell people it's like, 80% is lifestyle, like nutrition, like stress, mindset, all of that. And supplements are like 20% of the equation. It's just really, I guess I get like kind of triggered when I have patients come to me or clients come to me all the time where they're like, yeah, I just had, saw this functional medicine practitioner and left with 2 shopping bags full of supplements and I have no idea why I'm taking them. And and it's just horrible. It's horrible. It's not good practice in my opinion. So yeah, just different health foundations here. And example case study. So how are we doing on time? Do we have time for a little brief case study?
I think we have time for maybe 2 to 3 more minutes of content, and then I want to get to questions.
Okay, cool. So maybe what I will do, 2 to 3 minutes. Let me see what I have past here. Okay, I think we could do that. We could do 2 to 3 minutes. Let me shift into, so this is sharing is pause brief. Okay. Can you see a graph?
No, we currently just see example case study.
Okay. So let me stop share real quick and then let me share this other screen here. So just to give you one example, this is sort of the what I call a body systems questionnaire. This is an example of how I track people subjectively. So this was February of this year. Symptoms higher the number, the more severe the symptomology goes. So pretty high. Only 3 months later, we're down here. So these are kind of across body systems. So some of you may have seen something like this in the past, but this is just one of the ways that I do subjective assessments in addition to the labs. So as far as the labs go, you guys can like tell me to wrap it up to any second here. I think maybe I will just share. This is just a review. So you guys can kind of see how I put together a functional lab analysis review. I do record my lab review consult. So for like the GI map, I would kind of write out or type out the results. So the actual results are right here for this person. So based on this, I would kind of create like a 5R protocol. So we obviously have some dysbiosis, we have some H. pylori. I would definitely also treat for parasites here, just with this protozoa present, definitely address some leaky gut. So I'd put that together. I personally combine my 5R protocol with food sensitivity results. So a lot of times I see practitioners who are only using food sensitivity testing. They're just removing the foods and then reintroducing the foods without doing any sort of gut healing protocol in between that avoidance period. So just kind of putting that as a little clinical pearl out there for you, for those of you who are just starting out. What else would be really helpful for you guys to see? This is sort of a functional blood chemistry analysis report that I put together for my clients. So this is like the blood panel that I had mentioned, which you can order through Rupa for sure. And so really putting this together, I'm trying to just see if there's anything specific. Yeah, I don't want to like rush this too much for you guys. Do you want to transition a bit? Or
yeah,
what are you feeling like?
Yeah, Michelle, thank you so much for all that. It was awesome. Let's maybe why don't you tell us quickly about the Wealthy Woman, and make sure we get a plug out there for your business, and then let's jump into questions.
Yeah, for sure. So I basically train practitioners to start, grow, and scale their virtual practice using functional lab analysis. So I use a company, I've used Rupa, which makes things really, really, really convenient to order labs. One of the things that I really love about Rupa is that they have this sort of like third-party physician. What do you guys call it? Physician order or like physician authorization? That's it. Cool. I was on it. Physician authorization, which is probably the coolest part. Just being in the virtual space myself, I dropped my license, full transparency, about 3 years ago when I went virtual, and it just it's been such a gift to have a company like Rupa where I can still order labs. There's still I've kind of been like grandfathered into a lot of the different labs just because I've been using them so long. But a lot of you know, if you've set up accounts with labs in the past, like you have to have your license and NPI and like all this information. But what's really cool with the physician authorization is there's this like third party overseeing physician. And so we get to still interpret those labs and provide that service to our clients without, you know, having to do it ourselves or having it under our name or having a license, which is just really, really a cool service, I think. So yeah, if you guys are interested, I have a live 5-day workshop actually that's starting next week. And we're going over how to create like a stimulating vision, a motivating vision for yourself and your business and your life and your impact. We're going to be really talking about who it is that you want to be serving, like what type of clients. I kind of touched upon just like the energetics of having ideal clients and what that feels like. So really targeting who they are, how to find them, creating an offer. So whether that be a service, package, bundle, online course, whatever that might be that your specific clientele are really wanting, like how to create that offer, then how to use social media to your advantage. Just being in the online space, sometimes it can feel like we're screaming into the void because it's massive. It's a massive space and we're really the early adopters right now. So now is the time to start your virtual practice if you haven't already, in my opinion. And then we are going into also functional labs. So kind of more in depth around how I apply functional labs in my virtual practice and just details around that. So if you guys are interested, I do have a coupon code. It's Rupa. And we can put, I don't know if you want to put the link in the chat or what you guys would be interested in. You guys can also message me to get the functional lab analysis list. So you guys can find me at wealthywoman.co on Instagram. It's WELLTHYWOMAN.co. So there's that. And then if you guys want to register for the live workshop happening next week, you can go to wealthywoman.co/start-to-scale. And I think I could put that in the chat if you guys are open to that, or what do you guys think?
I think we'll probably end up sending it
out.
Yeah, we'll figure out a way to send it out. Thank you. Let's spend the next 6 minutes on questions. Okay, let's go to, so we have quite a diverse set of questions, but let's start with like maybe just an easier one for newbie practitioners who are new to functional labs. We got a question about, just tell us more about the MRT test. What does it do? What's it all about? Just tell us all about it.
Yeah, so it's a blood test. I have found that it seems to be more clinically relevant for my clients. It's an endpoint test. So instead of just being like an IgG or IgA or IgE, it also takes into account different other inflammatory end products. So histamine, different cytokines and things like that. And so I like it because I do the MRT 170. That's the most comprehensive panel that they have. And so it does all of the different foods and then also some chemicals, which is really helpful too. It helps people really bring awareness to reading labels and like what kind of like hidden ingredients might be causing some irritation and inflammation for them.
Cool.
Does that help?
Helpful. All right, cool. Let's move on to another question. You talked about 5R, 6R protocols in the context of the food sensitivity test. Can you define those a little bit more? What do we mean by those protocols?
Yeah. So that is a protocol that I've sort of modified and developed. Functional medicine has kind of a general 5R protocol. So we have like remove, replace, repopulate. Oh my gosh, I'm going to remember all of these. Reinoculate. No, that's the same. rebalance, and then retest. So they're just a bunch, like they all start with R, but it's basically a gut healing and repair protocol that I customize based on the lab. So for gut specific protocols, I actually look at the GI map, which tells me all about what's going on, like with the microbiome for sure, but also I really love the at the end, it's like intestinal markers. I don't remember the exact title, but it basically tells you about the secretory IgA. It tells you about gluten sensitivity. It tells you about pancreatic enzyme production. And so I love that portion because it really tells me how the digestive tract is functioning. I use that, the MRT, and then the organic acids. So personally in my practice, I use the organic acids in place of like a SIBO test, because the last section of the organic acids test, the organics comprehensive specific, it's all bacterial markers and fungal markers. And we know just the nature of organic acids, those markers, those biomarkers are coming from the small intestine. And so I kind of base whether or not I'm going to adjust my gut healing protocol to include something like SIBO or SIFO based on those results. Does that help?
Let's go into one more question. So do you have experience with the AVISE lab? I'm going to spell that AVISE for autoimmunity, or do you focus on tests for the root of autoimmunity, which causes, so do you focus on the test for the root of autoimmunity causes, i.e. the GE map?
So I do focus more on the root cause. So I'm more, the way that I kind of function in my practice is I have this 6-month foundational program, and that includes these 6 labs that I just told you about today. And I have found over the years that really addressing the information that I discover on these tests really creates massive transformation, even with the most complex clients and patients. So again, I'm not one to like go down all these like really specialty labs, like more autoimmune or even mold sometimes. Like I don't really go there, or even Lyme or things like that. I really stick to these foundations and see massive improvements.
Awesome. So it looks like we weren't able to get to every single question, but we will try to follow up with you if we can. There were some questions and comments made. I want to thank Michelle again, aka the Wealthy Woman, wealthywoman.co, in case you'd like to learn more about her business. And also just want to remind you, this webinar was sponsored by Rupa Health, which is the easiest and simplest way to order specialty labs from over 20 companies, all in one place. Take a 20-minute process down to a 2-minute process, and Rupa handles the entire patient experience for you. So any issues that happen along the way, we'll handle that for you for your patients. We would like to thank again Michelle and everybody for coming. And we're going to conclude the webinar. Thanks everybody for coming.
Feel free to reach out.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Michelle.
Thank